Hello everybody, it's Flaminpit Show, and I'm back from a long hiatus. I had to take some time to work on my book. I know people probably tired of me hearing about it. I've been talking about it for 2 years, and I finally got it done. So the only way I could push through it was to just shut back everything else and try to get her done. So I took a few months off, and this is the results. Here it is. Hardcore Survivor, A Life of Heartache and Pain by Elisa Quaid. So you can get this book at lulu.com. That's lulu.com. $13.99 out the door. So anyways, this book is, I guess it can be categorized as biography, autobiography, and it's just events in the life of Elisa Quaid from about 6 years old up until, I don't know, maybe 60. I tried to cut it off about when my 60th birthday was last July, but I ran over that deadline. So at about December, I just said, okay, I'm going to have to stop doing everything else I'm doing just to focus and try to get this in this year. So I just got it out, and it just got published, and it's available online at lulu.com. So anyways, this story starts little girl on the farm. I lived in Arkansas on the farm with my grandmother, aunts and uncles. And so I basically talk about all my childhood memories of on the farm, which I really loved living on the farm. And it branches into when I had polio in 1959. So from that point on, it was just a journey of everyday things. You know, you go to the hospital, they finally figure out what the problem is, because in 59 everybody had already had their vaccinations and they couldn't figure it out because they were like, it can't be polio, everybody's had their vaccinations. Well, I didn't have my vaccination because at that time they did inoculations, and my grandmother did not believe in needles, so she used to always say, no, that's my baby, you're not poking holes in my baby. So then later, after it was diagnosed, then you go through, spending a lot of time in the hospital, the therapy, wearing the braces, board shoes. I don't know if anybody really know what board shoes are. Those are the things that they're like high tops nailed to a couple of boards that you slept in. Now, I couldn't imagine it, and I don't know that anybody, if they still use that now for people that have polio, and I know people think that polio has been eradicated, but it has not. There are other countries that still have it, and then just recently they started having kids out in California somewhere that was having polio-like symptoms, and I don't know that they figured out what it is yet, but it's not eradicated. It's still out there. I guess you just have to depend on where you are, have to make sure you're vaccinated and your kids are vaccinated or whatever. But when you read this, I always tell people it's going to probably be like a movie. It's, it'll make you laugh and make you cry. And then I put a lot of old pictures in there of me with hair and big glasses, sort of like Sally Jesse Raphael. I had a lot of fun writing the book, but it evoked a lot of emotions. I was teased and tortured and bullied, in school, junior high, high school. I don't remember much in elementary, but junior high and high school were probably some of my worst years. But it didn't stop me getting my education because that was very important to me, and I always got good grades, and I made it through school, but it was such a mess. Kids can be cruel, and I always say when they grow up, they'll be cruel adults, and that somehow ends up being true. But I guess as with anything, when you have adversities, either you get through them or you don't. And since I'm a type A personality and somewhat of an overachiever, I just felt like, I just got to get on out here and do the thing, whatever it is. So when people read the book, I want you to just, have fun with it. But if you want to laugh, you want to cry, it's okay. So now I've had a couple people, like 3 in particular, that's read it already. They said they thought it was good. So I want everybody that does get it, I would like you to maybe post a review on Facebook or something like that, just to let me know what you think of it. Even if you think it was like scatterbrained or whatever, this is my first time trying to write a book, and I want to know what I need to do before I start writing my next one, because now I have the bug. It's like, oh yeah, I can write a book now. I know exactly what to do. But I just haven't decided what my next book is going to be. So I was getting my pedicure the other day, and the guy said, well, what you going to write your next book about? And I said, maybe it'll be about things that men shouldn't do. And he was like, no, you don't want to write that. Everybody writes about that. And I was like, well, it's a topic, from a woman's point of view. Tell me the kinds of things that you think men shouldn't do. And he just thought that was hilarious. But I thought, well, that could be kind of a good book. Actually, it could be a movie.
Whatever I'm doing is probably the wrong thing, so just don't follow my lead,
I know, it's like you don't know what to write about. I said, well, or maybe we'll write a sex book. I like to talk about sex, and I always get in trouble for it. So if I write it down, maybe I won't get in trouble for it.
It's like that's a topic of conversation. I think everybody likes to engage in, and it's. I think, as they said in MASH one time, is preoccupation with sex due to lack of occupation with sex.
Yeah, well, I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm just thinking I may do another book, and it'll be something on decorating, because that's like my love. I love to decorate, but you never know. I just took the time to do this because I wanted to. I started when I was in my 20s, but I figured I hadn't lived long enough. And when I see people that write autobiographies at that early age of like 20 and 21, it's like, to me, you haven't lived long enough, so you still got a lot more to write about. And so I just figured I would wait till I get a little older, and then I would get it done, because then I could really have a history book pretty much. But in my 60 years, I think living on a farm, I am a lot older than 60 because I've done so much stuff. And when I worked at the university, my students were quite young. They was like, oh, I was born in 85. And I always laughed at them. And I was like, I've got purses your age.
My standard is I have socks older than you. But
yeah, and it's like they would say, you didn't do all that, and you start telling them the story, and they were like, you didn't do all that? It's like, oh yeah, I did all that. We were up at 4:00 in the morning. We were slopping hogs and feeding chickens and collecting eggs all before breakfast. Then you have to walk so far through the pasture with bulls and cows and go up the levee to get to the bus to ride to school, like forever. It seemed like you'd be riding forever to go to school. But it was a joy. I mean, we did it every day and never thought anything about it. And so I think sometimes now the kids don't really know what that's like, because everybody has a car that can just get you right to school. I don't remember anybody having a car until I was about 7th grade. So I never had a car. I think I bought my first car for $1,000, and I was mid-20s, out of school and working 2 jobs and everything. So it's just one of those things that, I think I have always tried to just keep it moving, not think about the negatives, because people put that on you before they do anything positive. But my book, I always say, I wrote that, maybe it inspires some people, maybe it entertain people, maybe it'll do both. I just don't know. I just want to find out, what people think about it. And I know John has a copy, and he probably had a couple of laughs when he saw the old pictures.
It's like, yeah, I remember we were standing there after I got it from you. I was like, who's that? And he goes, that's me. And I was like, and it's like, you just look like a normal school kid, basically. The picture I saw, I'm thinking of, he's basically like you had the kind of the style of the hair back then, the kind of I guess we'd call it like a mini fro. But
I always had a giant afro because people used to call me Q-tip because I was real thin and I had this big head of hair, so they used to always call me Q-tip. And when I got older, right before graduation, I wanted all that hair cut off. I always had hair like down my back to my butt. And when I got 18, I moved out the house. I was so tired of it, I just went to the barber and I said, cut it and make me an afro. And he was like, are you going to get in trouble? I was like, no, it's my hair. So we finally cut it and made it into a fro. And some of the pictures in there doesn't even show how big the fro was, because I couldn't even go through all of the pictures of me from way back when. I could have just done a book of nothing but old pictures, like a photo album. That would have been the only way to describe, because there's so many pictures of me with this giant head of hair and this little tiny body. But when we hung out at the clubs and everything like that, that's how everybody dressed back in the 70s. You had your bell bottoms and your platform shoes and your afros and everything. And we always had a lot of fun with that. And I put a lot of that stuff in the book because those were all fun memories to me. And I guess that's all a part of when people write autobios, is to put in all your fun memories and events that happened in your life that meant something, either whether they were good or bad. So when I was doing it, I wrote the book and made sure that I edited back enough so that I didn't put too much stuff in there where it would, like, anybody would feel like I'm bashing them, or it's an insult to them or anything like that. I tried to stay neutral and still get my story out. So
I often think that'd be a good idea if actually people let people who when they write their own story, let the people who they talk about read the book, and they find anything offensive, or they say, okay, I can cut it out for this much.
Yeah.
Then you can guarantee your book's going to be a success. The creative editing you come up with.
Right. But, and I thought of that, but I didn't put a lot of people. I think mostly I had added my siblings in there just because this was my first book and I wanted to include them. But some of my siblings I don't know much about because our age difference. I was already moved out the house by the time they grew up, so I really didn't get to grow up with them to know anything about them. So, like, the only thing, my one sister that had cancer, I wrote, how I felt about that, and the stuff I went through with that and how she felt about that. But the two younger ones, is not a lot to write because it's like I wasn't there. I had moved out at 18 and they all were still in the house. And I always teased them. I said, you guys got to do a lot of stuff that I didn't get to do. Like, I wanted to play instruments. Well, when I was growing up, there was never any money for me to do anything like that. I just had to go to school and come home and cook and clean and do all that. And they got to play instruments, be in the band and all that stuff.
We hear that old Rodney Dangerfield line. We were so poor when I was a kid. If I wasn't a boy, I would have nothing to play with.
Yeah, well, I had plenty of stuff to play with, but it was just...
couldn't you done the comb and the piece of wax paper?
Yeah, well, I mentioned a bottle doll because some people don't know what bottle dolls are. And when we lived on the farm, I have a whole chapter of keeping ourselves entertained, on the farm, because some people just, like these days, the kids got all the video games and they got all the high-tech stuff and stuff like that. But when I was younger, and I lived on the farm, we didn't have stuff like that. Okay, let me see, chapter 6. And one thing about this book is, I didn't number my pages because I didn't know. I thought that they would do it for me, so I didn't number my pages. So somebody else said, oh, you didn't number the pages. I was like, yeah, I know. So chapter 6 is when I was talking about the kind of things, we did on the farm. And I'm going to read a little bit of this because it's a fairly short chapter, but it's comical. Okay, so it says, now it's playtime. One thing I liked to do as a kid was make mud pies. Ever had a mud pie made with Arkansas clay dirt? Yummy. First, have you ever had clay dirt? That had to be the second best thing to eat aside from Argo starch. Does anyone eat starch anymore? I don't think it's edible anymore. Kids these days don't have the imagination to create things to play with. Ever had a bottle doll? Do you know what that is? Do you know what seagrass is? To make a bottle doll, you would take a pop bottle for the body and use seagrass for the hair. Seagrass or hemp is a form of rope that is untwined and made into hair. You could comb it and curl it to make hairstyles. Ever play with popsicle sticks? We ate a lot of popsicles because it was always so hot. I think that was one of the cheapest treats we could have on a regular basis. You could make a lot of things with popsicle sticks. And it said, as a kid, I learned to keep myself occupied when there was no one around to play with. However, I did have my uncle and lots of cousins to play with most days. We played almost anywhere, including the cemetery, in trees, by the river, and even being buried in the sand while my uncle took a nap. And I remember that because we lived by the levee, and my uncle, we would go down, cross this levee, and he would lay in the sand and take a nap, but he would bury me in the sand, I guess, as babysitting. He'd keep me, close by, so he would like bury me in the sand. And one thing I really enjoyed was playing cowboys and Indians. My uncle and I played that most days. I think we lived and breathed cowboys and Indians. We took turns being the sheriff, and we tied each other to the wagon in the yard. I loved playing with my cap guns as much as my dolls. He used to babysit my cousins, and when we did something wrong, he would always say something funny like, "If you guys don't sit down, I'm going to do myself nothing to you." Looking back, it was quite funny because we didn't understand what he was saying, but we knew we had to do what he said. I was very much a tomboy, and it probably gave my grandmother many gray hairs because I was so rough and tough. My uncles and I used to go to the creek to catch crawdads, crayfish as they are called in the north. We always caught lots of crayfish because it took a lot to make a meal. What family does the crayfish come from? They look like a cross between a lobster and a shrimp. That was the type of entertainment for me because not only did we gather them for food, we got to trudge through the mud and get very dirty. What kids don't like mud? Now, I never figured out what a crawfish is. Do you know what that is, John? It's a crustacean.
So yeah, from my understanding, they're a freshwater relative of the lobster. I mean, they look a lot alike.
Yeah,
so.
but they're babies.
They
only get little like this.
Besides, you live in they might live in brackish water, but they don't go, fully salt, like the ocean. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they're the same. They look the same. They got the same kind of, appendages, basically. Yeah. So I think they're just, evolutionary process. They evolved to stay in fresh water where lobsters, went to deeper water in the oceans. Relatively, you're going to find most of the crayfish near the banks of the river or stream or creek or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you can also see them all over the, like right now when when it warms up, the temperature will dry, cause this stuff to melt, the snow, and you're going to have a lot of little temporary ponds set up, and you're going to see them burrowing in there too. So they're kind of like, they got a widespread range of crayfish.
I didn't even know they were up here like that.
Oh yeah, they got them. We got them in Wadey Park. You see them all over Wadey Park.
Oh well, that's dinner.
Yeah, it's like my great aunt told me that when I was a kid one time, I found a couple of them. She goes, we used to eat those. We used to get a tin can from like a coffee can, fill that full of water, toss in a bunch of them, boil them up, and then we'd steal somebody's corn, and they'd have another can there full of water. We'd heat up for the corn. She goes, we'd go home for lunch. She goes, we weren't even hungry, She goes, we had kernels of corn all over us, and she goes, we ate our fill on the crayfish. And she was actually born in Hungary, but she just the kids around her ate the crayfish, and she learned to do the same thing. So
yeah, and my grandmother would take them and deep fry them because you take the little meat out the tail and it would be like a little ball of meat, and she would deep fry it, and we would have a whole bunch of that. But you had to get like a massive amount of them because the meat, it was just a small amount of meat, but we always ate them. And when people had like the crawfish boils and stuff, I mean, I don't remember us having anything quite like that, but we always would have like massive amounts of food to eat because it was like me and her kids and then my aunt and her kids, and we always ate together. And on hot days or even cooler days, we would all eat outside. We get pie tins, and back then they had the metal pie tins. They didn't have the little tin foil ones now, and that's what all us kids used to love to eat on. You get your little pan, you go in there and you get your food and your glass of Kool-Aid or ice water, and you sit outside under the trees and you eat. And when we played, it was like we always played outside. Nobody got to sit up in the house like they do now. It was like, don't be sitting around grown people, what you listening for? Ain't nobody talking to you, everybody go outside and play. And we played outside from sun up to sundown. So we never worried about staying inside.
And of course, you were down there. You had there before you lived down there, before the South actually had air conditioning in the house.
We had fans.
Yeah, fans.
And you had to put the curtains. You keep your curtains closed, and then you put a blanket up to the window or something to keep the sun out, keep the fan on, and then everybody was staying inside when it was very, very hot. And then later, you come outside, you sit up under the tree or sit on the porch, and if there was a breeze, you get a breeze. If not, you would just sit out there and swelter, because it would be hot. Sometime at night, oh my goodness, it'd be so hot, everybody sleep on top of the cover, and open all the windows, then the mosquitoes come in. Mosquitoes eat you, it's like misery.
Down there, they don't die off as much as they do here during the winter.
No, it's like I think they like that mugginess or something because we had screens on the windows and you could see the mosquitoes wiggling their way through the screens. I mean, they were it was hilarious. You see them, they'd stick one leg through the hole, and they stick two legs through the hole, and then the next thing you know, he's inside, and they would just be zooming around your head and stuff, and you wake up in the night, mosquito biting you and stuff, and get up the next morning, you full of mosquito bites, and it's like hot. Like I won't even go down south now in the summer. It's too hot. It's way too hot. But yeah, when I was trying to decide on the names of the titles in the book, I've got, when I talked about my besties, my best friends. It's like I had three best friends here as adults that, we've been friends over 40 years. And we also grew up like together as like one friend, we've been friends since 13. And the other one, we've been friends since her daughter was like 3 months old. And we hung out so much, partied so much when I lived in Jackson that it was just ridiculous fun. And then when I was in Arkansas as a kid, I probably had like one or two friends that I hung out with, but I really didn't hang out much until I moved out of the house. And then it was party. But yeah, so writing the book was a lot of fun, and I may do a part 2, but then most likely it'll be something else.
You're gonna see who wants to come forward with bribe money, so that you won't be the tell-all, right?
Yeah, I don't think I would ever do a tell-all, because even some people, when they write their autobio, they tell so much stuff that happened to them as kids that the parents be mad and cussing at them and mad, just things that I don't even want to go through that kind of rhetoric. I haven't had any backlash or anything from this one because I really think I edited well enough that nobody should be offended or anything like that. But, you never know. It's my story, the way I see it. It's the story, it's my life and things that happened to me and the way I dealt with them. And so that's all I can say about it. It wasn't meant for anybody to get upset or anything.
Yeah, see, I remember when we first started talking, well, before you started writing it, you said that you took kind of Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton's, suggestion or his advice that everybody should write a book. And is that what really prompted you to start writing this book?
Well, no, he said everybody should write one, but I think that's what made me really, really want to, because I started it early. And then I thought about it more and more, and I never did. And then when I got to his book was like 900 some pages. And he was like, everybody should write an autobio. And then I started seeing other people like LL Cool J wrote one. Kendra Wilkinson wrote one. And, I'm thinking people like that write, and, a lot of them, they'll get ghostwriters to do it. All they got to do is just sign their names to it. So I figured, well, shoot. I really want to do this, but I can't afford that. I can't pay somebody to do it for me. And so I just went on and said, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just all in.
I thought Bill Clinton's autobiography would be Dirty Jokes and Beer or something, but that was already taken. I mean, it's like basically he's lived the life of a frat boy his entire existence.
Well, his book was so big, I couldn't even read it. It's too much. And it would be that because with being in politics, I can't see a short autobio. I've never seen an autobio that thick. So I just was like, it's like to me reading a Michael Crichton book. I cannot finish a Michael Crichton. His movies are good, but his books are killers. I tried to read Clear and Present Danger, and that book is so many pages with so many words. I just could not read that whole book because the movie itself is like 3 hours long. And I just couldn't do it.
And Grisham, that's, what was his name?
John Grisham.
John Grisham.
His books, I've read all of his books. I think his last...
Tom Clancy. Yeah, Tom Clancy was Tyranno Cruel and Present Danger, wasn't it? Tom Clancy?
I don't know. I don't know if he's Clancy. I think it was Crichton.
Was it Crichton?
I don't know. It was one of them. But it's too much. I couldn't read it. It was like too wordy. You get 1,000 words on one page. It's too much. But Grisham was one of my favorites. I've read all his books except like his last 2, maybe 3. And Ivanovich, I've read all hers except her last 2. And those are easy read books. That's what I wanted to make mine. I didn't want it to be something that people get bogged down in and don't want to read it. I want you to read it and have a picture in your mind, and the stuff I'm saying, it sounds just like me talking. And so I want you, as when you read it, I want you to be like, what? I can see that. And that was the purpose. I wanted, when you read, I want you to really enjoy it, and just, whether you laugh or whatever, I just want you to enjoy it.
See, and I can, like we were talking about this before, and I just think that most people say they're going to write a book, and they always say they're going to write a book. My mom being one of them, she was always saying, well, if I could, I'm going to sit down and write my book. So we actually went out and bought a computer for her. Mm-hmm. This is before they actually had the word processing programs. Right. She wanted a computer to write her thing on, but then she didn't really want to take the effort to learn how to write a program to actually be able to do this. This was like late 70s, early 80s. And I wish she had written down, because she had some interesting stories, especially about her family coming from Hungary and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but you actually did it. I mean, a lot of people say they're going to do it. You actually did this.
Yeah.
That's remarkable, Lisa. I mean, it's really an accomplishment.
And even if I never do it again, I can say I did it, and I can check it off my bucket list and feel good about it. But so I don't want to stay on this topic any longer, because we all have things to do. I just want people to go to lulu.com and pick the book up. It's fairly cheap. It's an easy read, and I hope you enjoy it.
Now, you're going to have any book signings planned locally, or?
Well, I don't know. One person had said they wanted to do one with me, and I figured I would only do one if I could do it with someone else, because I don't know enough people that would actually come to it to make it worth my time. Because when you have to order your books, that's where your expense come in. Like with it being a free publishing company, I have to pay for all my books, and that's where the expense come in. So if I'm going to do it with somebody else or a group of people, then it would be worth my while. I would have, a bigger line of people coming in. But if I'm going to order, 300 books and have one person show up, then that person better come through a few times.
What we should do is we should actually have we should have people like the press covering that the press, like the Channel 12 news, that you're getting sued by this celebrity, that celebrity for libel because you libeled them in your book, and then have all these people promise to show up because they're actually going to serve you with these papers.
Oh my!
And then could you imagine what kind of media circus you'd have going on there?
Oh yeah, that was something I don't think I would need. They would be like, I told y'all, don't mess with that girl. She's crazy.
No, but I mean, I'm really glad you will come back, and I hope to see you coming back more often. But I'm just also glad that you actually took and sat down and wrote the story about your life. I mean, it's like, you can't understand how many people I've heard say they want to write their book. I've known these people 35 years and never sat down and wrote. Brandon's ahead of them, okay?
No, with his 2 lines, he's ready. So we just have to get together with him. I got to get him focused in and see what he want to write about, and then I want to help him put something together, because it would just make his day. And it will make my day that he wants to follow in my footsteps, even if it's just to write 2 lines.
Well, I think he's going to go further than that. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, because he seems to be he might have a false start and stop and stuff, but I think he will continue with it.
Yeah. I told him when he gets ready to, because what I'll probably do with him, and like what I did with myself, I made an outline of the things I wanted to talk about. And then I went from there. I just followed the outline of what I want to talk about. And then as I thought of more things, I just plugged them in. And I think that it will work good for him, and have him actually do the typing and stuff himself.
Getting back to your book, people buy it, and if they want it signed or if they want to talk to you about it, they can reach you on Facebook.
Yeah, they can reach me on Facebook, or they can contact me at Flaminpit, FLAMINPITT @yahoo.com. And if you're locally and I have any extra books and you want one autographed, I can get one to you. Otherwise, you can just go to lulu.com and order one, and then I can autograph it for you once you receive it. That sounds like a superstar, don't it?
Yeah, it's like
autograph.
Yeah, it's like it's like and of course, consumers get your autograph every month. But
I mean, everybody else get my autograph. They might as well get one too.
But no, I just so if as any kind of events crop up, for book signings, we'll definitely let people know if you're gonna be locally selling this book or signing the book. So
yeah, and if I come across an event that I will be a part of, I will let everybody know. and possibly, if they want to come out to support me, I'll have an address and event time and everything. Because I do have one person that's thinking about it. She hasn't done hers yet. Her book is out, but she hasn't done her book signing yet. And so she said we should do one together. So I'm basically waiting for her to decide when she want to do it and how she wants to do it. I've never done anything like that before, and she's never done a book signing. But if we can do it together, and then I'm all in. But I just don't want to try to pull it off by myself because I don't think it would be very successful.
But I'm going to definitely read my copy, and like I said, I was just interested in some of the pictures there. I was just, it's like, yeah, I've known you for like better part of 20 years, and it's just like it is kind of, like I said before, though, I think it's like when you're writing a book like this, it's going to probably bring up some unpleasant memories as well. And
yeah.
I bet there was a lot of emotions going on during the course of this. So.
Oh, yeah. Some of the time I was reading it back to my friend, and I would just start crying, and I'd say, okay, I can't read anymore. I just going to have to put it down. And those are the things that stick with you forever. Stuff that just sticks with you. It's never going to go away. So I figured I could write it, and then maybe I don't have to talk about it anymore, but I'll always think about it. So that's why I say with it being like a movie, you might laugh, you might cry.
It's better than Cats.
Yeah, you might do some of both. You'd be like, ha, 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 then you start crying, or you start crying, then you start laughing. I don't know. But it does bring a lot of emotion back, and it was kind of hard. It was hard to write. It was fun to write, but it was hard because I did have to, go through. I went through a lot of stuff that I wrote about, and I had to sit there and wipe tears away and write it down anyways. But it's all good. I'm just glad it's done.
And I'm glad it's in my hands. We'll get a chance to read it.
Yeah.
But no. So anyway, Facebook. Lisa.
Yep, Facebook, Lisa Quaid, Lesa.
Or the Flaming. You also have one for the Flaminpit Show.
I have one for the Flaminpit Show, and then my emails, Flaminpit with 2 T's at the end at yahoo.com.
Anyway,
So anyways, I want to thank anybody that remembered me today. I know I've been gone a while, so I hope I had some people tune in, and now you know that I'm back. And I will let John know when the next show is, because I'm not quite sure yet, but I'll be back, and I'll be back soon. So with that, Flaminpit, and we're out.